It was early morning in eastern Burkina Faso and the sun had just started to rise. President Ibrahim Traoré stood by his black SUV sipping tea. He was preparing to visit a rural youth center where hundreds of young people were waiting to see him. Speeches were written. Drummers had already started warming up in the village square, but there was a problem. They were running late. One of his closest advisors, a tall man named Idrissa, stepped forward. Sir, he said, if we take the main road we'll arrive 2 hours late, but there's a shortcut through the bush, very quiet, no towns. We'll be there in 40 minutes. Ibrahim raised an eyebrow. Is the road secure? Yes sir, Idrissa nodded quickly. Our men cleared it yesterday. I personally oversaw it. Karim, one of Ibrahim's bodyguards, stepped forward. I've never liked that road, too quiet, but Idrissa insisted. We have limited fuel and the youth are waiting. We must move now. Ibrahim paused, thinking, then he said, fine, we'll take the shortcut. The convoy of 5 vehicles rolled out, 2 armed trucks in front, the president's SUV in the middle and 2 more in the back. The road was narrow and bumpy, surrounded by tall dry grass, not a single person in sight, no homes, no goats, no smoke from fires, just silence. Half an hour passed, everything seemed calm, then a cow appeared standing right in the center of the dirt road, a big brown cow. Its horns were chipped, its eyes calm, its legs firmly planted. It stared straight at the president's car and refused to move. The driver honked. Nothing. The front escort truck shouted, move, shoot. Nothing. One soldier fired a shot into the air. The sound echoed. Still, the cow didn't budge. Everyone was confused. It's just a cow. One guard said, let's push it off the road. 2 soldiers stepped out and tried to guide it with sticks. The cow stepped back slightly, then returned to its same spot. President Ibrahim watched from inside the SUV, puzzled. He rolled down his window. Why hasn't it moved? He asked. No idea, said Karim. It's acting strange. Try driving around it, Idrissa said quickly. We're wasting time. The driver prepared to steer slightly off-road, but something in Ibrahim's heart felt heavy. He looked again at the cow. It wasn't scared, it wasn't running, it just stood there blocking the exact center of the road. Then he said something that surprised everyone. Stop the car. The driver obeyed. Send a man to check under the cow, sir, Idrissa said nervously. It's just a cow. I said check the ground. 2 guards approached carefully. One leaned forward, studying the dirt under the cow's front legs. Suddenly he jumped back. Sir, there's something here. The convoy froze. Everyone rushed to look. Half buried in the ground, just inches beneath the cow, was a thin metal wire barely visible. The soldier followed the wire with his hand and gasped. It led to a mine, a real landmine. Karim called out, panicked, sir, we've got explosives. Not 1, 3 mines hidden together. Gasps, shouting radio calls. The road had been prepared for a kill, and that cow, it had stopped them just in time. President Ibrahim stepped out. Slowly he looked at the cow, then at the ground, then at Idrissa, and for the first time he saw fear in his advisor's eyes. The road was silent but not peaceful. Soldiers surrounded the area. Guns were drawn. Radios buzzed with voices. The discovery of 3 landmines buried under the dirt had changed everything, and yet the cow still stood there, calm, still watching. President Ibrahim Traoré stepped forward, eyes fixed on the spot where the wire poked through the soil. He didn't speak, he didn't blink, his mind was racing. We cleared this road yesterday, he said, finally turning to Idrissa, his advisor. Yes sir, Idrissa said quickly, sweat already forming on his forehead. Our security team swept it. There were no signs of any danger. Karim, the head bodyguard, knelt beside the wire. This was planted recently, he said, very recently. See this? He pointed at a fresh boot print next to the mine. The ground is still soft. This wasn't here yesterday morning. Ibrahim narrowed his eyes. Someone knew we'd take this road. Idrissa spoke again. Sir, maybe the enemy just planted them hoping anyone would pass by. But Ibrahim didn't answer. He was watching Idrissa's hands, his nervous twitching, his eyes darting, and something else hit him. Idrissa had pushed hard for this road, too hard. We were supposed to go through Kudigo, Ibrahim said slowly. Why did you insist on this shortcut? Again, I just thought we'd save time. Idrissa stammered. You said we were late. Karim stood up, his hand on his weapon. Now but this road isn't even on the official travel list, and you claim to oversee the clearance personally, didn't you? Adriza's throat moved as he swallowed hard. Yes, I did. Seek the commander of security operations arrived on a motorbike with backup troops. He was briefed in seconds. Then he turned to Ibrahim. Sir, may I speak to you alone? They stepped to the side. I don't trust him, Siku said, quietly nodding toward Adriza. And you won't like what I just found. What is it? One of the private security officers assigned to Adriza was caught trying to send a location ping to an unknown number. We tracked it. It connects to a satellite uplink that belongs to a private foreign military firm. Ibrahim's face turned to stone. He looked back at Adriza, who was now pretending to scroll through his phone nervously. He led us to this road, Ibrahim said, and someone made sure there'd be mines waiting, Siku added. Just then a soldier near the cow shouted, "It's moving." Everyone turned. The cow finally stepped aside slowly, quietly, and began walking into the bush. It was as if its job was done. No one followed it. No one could understand it, but deep down, everyone felt it. That cow had saved them. Sir Karim said, "This is more than luck. This is a message. Something bigger is going on." Ibrahim nodded. Then he turned to his men and gave a chilling order: "Search every inch of this road, every root, every tree, and arrest Adriza. Don't let him speak to anyone." The men moved fast. Adriza tried to speak. "Mr. President, I swear I don't know, but..." Ibrahim raised a hand. "You wanted me on this road. You told me it was safe. You promised it." He leaned in closer and said softly, "But that cow saved me before you could kill me." Adriza's face went pale. Soldiers grabbed him and dragged him to the back vehicle. The president turned to his men. "We're not going to the youth center today. We're going to the truth. Someone planned my death, and this was just the beginning." The convoy didn't move forward that day. Instead it reversed slowly, carefully, under full military escort. Mines were marked. Drones were sent overhead and back at the palace. A dark cloud hung over every room. President Ibrahim sure didn't say much on the ride back. He sat in silence, looking out the window, replaying every detail. A trusted advisor had just been arrested. A cow had stopped his car. A hidden landmine waited beneath his wheels. It was no longer just a coincidence. It was a message back at the intelligence headquarters. Idriza sat in a cold room, hand-scuffed, sweat pouring from his temples. Commander Siku stood across the table. "We traced your phone," Sik said. "You deleted your GPS history, but our system recovered it." He placed printed papers in front of Adriza. "2 days ago you stopped near the exact spot where the mine was found. What were you doing there?" Adriza shook his head. "I was just checking the route alone. With no security, I needed fresh air." Sik slammed his fist on the table. "Stop lying." Adriza flinched. "Who paid you? Who told you to guide the president down that road?" Adriza said nothing. Sik stared at him, then gave a cold smile. "Fine, let me show you something." He turned on a screen. A video played grainy footage from a hidden camera set up by villagers near a telecom mast. It showed Idriza at night speaking to a man in military boots. The man wore a cap low over his eyes and handed Idriza something. It was a satellite phone. "We recovered that exact phone from under your car seat," Sik said. "You forgot to destroy it." Idriza's lips trembled. Finally he spoke. "They said they only wanted to scare him, make him afraid, easier to control. They said it wouldn't kill him, just send a message." "Who is they?" Sik demanded. Idriza shook his head. "I don't know names. I was given money, promises." He looked down in shame. "They hate him, you know," he whispered. "They hate that he's uniting Africa. They said if Traoré keeps rising, Western interests will fall." Sika leaned back. "And you sold your own country for what? Dollars and fear?" Idriza didn't answer. President Ibrahim sat in his office later that evening. He held a file full of evidence: photographs, maps, satellite phone logs, and one strange image, the last photo taken by a drone. Above the ambush site, it showed the cow standing peacefully in the middle of the road right above the mine. Ibrahim stared at it for a long time. Sik entered the room. "We've confirmed it," he said. Idriza was recruited by a foreign network, likely a military contractor linked to you know who. Ibrahim didn't look up. He finally asked, "Do we know where the cow came from?" "We asked the nearby villages. No one owns it. It doesn't match any herds. It just showed up." Ibrahim smiled faintly and vanished when the work was done. Sik nodded slowly. "Sir, permission to speak freely." "Go ahead." "That was not just an animal, that was something else." Ibrahim looked out the window. "I know," he said, "and I don't take it lightly." He stood up. "We have enemies in suits." "Enemies enemies with pens, enemies with minds, but now they've seen something they can't explain. He turned to Sekou. Prepare a message I want the world to know. Africa's path is not guided by fear, it is guarded by something greater, even if that something has 4 legs and horns. Ibrahim smiled even then. 2 days had passed since the landmine was discovered across Burkina Faso. Whispers were growing. Did a cow really stop the president's death? Was it luck, or something divine? Who planted the bomb, and how deep does the betrayal go? President Ibrahim Traoré now back in the capital moved quietly through the palace halls. He had ordered no press conferences, no statements. His silence was not fear, it was strategy, because something didn't add up. If Adriza was the leak who helped him from the inside, mines like those weren't buried without exact GPS. Someone had provided detailed timing and coordinates, someone who knew exactly when and where the president would pass. Traoré called a secret meeting with commanders, seek his cyber surveillance chief and 2 trusted military officers. I want every palace device scanned, he said, every phone, every radio, every signal, every staff record. We missed something. They worked overnight. By morning the truth hit like a bomb. A tablet belonging to one of the security camera's supervisors had strange hidden files, audio logs, text conversations, and one file labeled only giraffe track version 5. Inside the file, live tracking data of the president's vehicle. Someone had installed hidden tracking software on the convoy's lead vehicle. The data had been shared in real time right up until the moment the cow blocked the road. They were watching your movement like a video game, said the cyber chief. They knew every turn. The traitor was a man named Lieutenant Unbothered, a quiet, well-liked logistics officer. He had worked at the palace for 6 years. No one suspected him. When arrested, he confessed immediately. I was offered a new life, he said, money, a foreign visa. They said Traoré would be replaced, that it was already arranged. Sekou turned to him. Who's they? The officer hesitated, then he muttered, people connected to security firms from abroad. One was American. He had a badge that said Langley Group Support. Seek's blood ran cold. The link was clearer now. This wasn't just an inside job, it was an international operation. Back in the presidential quarters, Traoré sat in silence. He opened a small notebook, his personal journal. He wrote only one sentence: they tried to end my life with my own people, but something greater stood in their way. Then he stood and made a decision that would shake the world. That night a last-minute broadcast was announced. Millions across Burkina Faso tuned in, so did Mali, Guinea, Niger, and even curious viewers in France and the US. President Ibrahim Traoré appeared on screen, calm, strong and direct. I was nearly killed this week, he began, not by war, not by rebels, but by people in suits, people who smile at us while wiring our roads with explosives. He paused. They sent men into our palace, they bought our brothers with foreign money, they plotted my death using my own routes, my own convoy, my own advisor. He looked directly into the camera, but they failed because a simple animal stood in the way. A cow. Yes, a cow stopped me, and when they see that even nature won't let me fall, they'll understand something deeper. He slammed his hand on the desk. We are not a people you can control. Burkina Faso is not a chessboard for outsiders. From this day, any foreign military base, contractor, or spy agency on our soil must leave. Gasps were heard even through the screen. And one last thing, Traoré added, eyes narrowing, I know your names, I have your messages, and I won't just survive your plots, I will expose them. He stood up and walked away as the flag of Burkina Faso rose behind him. The screen faded to black, and across Africa the lion roared louder than ever. The day after President Ibrahim Traoré's speech, chaos erupted outside Africa, but inside Burkina Faso the people were on fire with pride. Social media exploded. Young people painted murals of cows with golden horns. Poets called it the divine cow of resistance. Children reenacted the scene in schools, even in nearby Mali and Niger. The story spread like wildfire. The West brought technology, we had dust, prayers and a cow, but in the shadows, anger was growing far beyond Ouagadougou. Across the sea, inside a high-security boardroom of a private military contractor, 3 foreign men watched Traoré's broadcast on repeat. One of them, American accent, sharp suit, slammed his hand on the table. He wasn't supposed to survive, he hissed. That road was cleared. We tracked him. Live. How does a cow ruin a 3 million operation? Another man, British, leaned forward. There's only one explanation. We underestimated him. him they pulled out new plans, this time no landmines, they wanted something quieter, more final. Back in Burkina Faso, President Traoré was working in silence. He had not slept more than 4 hours in days. He studied enemy patterns, he reviewed every name, every message, every security weakness, and most importantly, he waited because he knew they'd try again. He even said it to Siku the cow. Bought us time, but it didn't stop the storm. Now we must strike before they do. Meanwhile, in the city of Bobo Dioulasso, a young cattle herder arrived at a local mosque with a strange story. He told the imam that one of his cows had disappeared for 2 days, then returned with a patch of burned hair on its leg and red paint on its horns. I think, he whispered, it was the one from the president's road. Word spread. Traoré heard the report and ordered the cow to be quietly brought to the palace under full guard, not to worship it, not to parade it, to study it. The lab results came in the next day, and what they found was shocking: traces of human blood, tiny drops, old dried but human and not from the cow itself. Someone had bled near the cow or on it, or tried to harm it. Was the cow attacked before the convoy came? Had someone tried to move it and failed? Seek brought new intel from his sources. Sir, we've uncovered chatter. They're planning to enter again, not with mines, not with drones, with infiltration. A diplomat, a handshake, a gift. President Traoré nodded. Then we will welcome them with open arms. He paused and closed traps. 3 days later, a foreign peace delegation arrived. 4 officials, friendly smiles, a box of gifts from their embassy, books, electronics, and custom tea from the Alps. But hidden inside the tea box, a slim black device with an injection needle identical to the one from the poison pen plot. This time it was meant to be hidden under a bracelet. A simple touch during a handshake would inject a drop of liquid into the skin, enough to stop a heart in 60 seconds. But Traoré already knew. As the delegation waited in the palace conference room sipping cold drinks, the door burst open. Soldiers poured in, guns drawn. No one moved. The 4 diplomats were surrounded. One reached for his pocket. He was slammed to the ground. The bracelet was seized, the injector removed, and the truth confirmed. This wasn't a peace visit, it was a final attempt. One of the arrested men confessed, we tried everything: pressure, bribery, landmines, injections, but he always survives. How does he always survive? Sikh looked at him and simply said, because he fights for people, not power, and sometimes even animals fight with him. President Ibrahim stood again before his nation. That night they called us weak, but the weak do not survive this. Many attacks the weak do not expose. Betrayal the weak do not make history. With cows and children today we didn't just survive another plot, we buried the idea that Africa cannot protect its own. The sun was setting over Ouagadougou. A soft orange glow spread across the city, casting long shadows over the presidential palace. Inside, President Ibrahim Traoré stood alone in his private garden, eyes fixed on the horizon. Behind him the nation buzzed with pride. The attempted assassins had been exposed. The people were awake, his enemies silent. But Ibrahim knew this wasn't truly over, because power always invites more enemies. His phone buzzed, a message from Siku. The interrogated diplomat has confessed. There are others hiding in embassies, in charities, even in private schools waiting. Ibrahim stared at the screen, then locked the phone. He turned to face the giant cow statue that had just been unveiled in the garden, built by young welders using scraps of metal from retired army vehicles. On its base a plaque read, it stood when the world wanted him to fall. The next day, President Traoré held a private meeting. Only 5 people were in the room: Sikh Karim, his intelligence chief, and 2 spiritual leaders. What we face is no longer physical, Ibrahim began. It's psychological. It's a war of pressure, bribes, fear, and infiltration. One of the imams nodded. That cow, sir, it didn't just block a mine, it revealed the snakes hiding in your palace. Karim added, the people trust you more than ever, but the enemies aren't done and we need to prepare. So Ibrahim revealed his plan. He called it Operation Mirror. It was simple: every foreign friend would be watched, every palace staff member would be rotated and screened, and any attack, whether by hand or handshake, would be met with a story told to the people loudly. No more silence, no more hiding corruption. Every betrayal would be exposed publicly. Weeks passed, no new attempts, but the world began to notice. Burkina Faso's leadership became harder to manipulate. Money stopped working. Threats were laughed at. Western embassies requested private talks and were ignored. Traoré had become something else. Not just a leader, a legend. He had survived bullets, poison, betrayal and landmines, but the thing that saved him wasn't a gun, it was a cow. Months later, during a summit in Mali, a journalist asked Ibrahim a question on live TV. Mr. President, people say a cow saved your life. Do you believe that? The room laughed. Ibrahim smiled, then leaned into the microphone. Yes, a cow saved me, but that's not the point. The real miracle is what the cow revealed. It showed us how deep betrayal can hide, how even the earth can speak if you're humble enough to listen. The room went silent, then exploded into applause. Back home, Duda, the boy from the mango story, watched from his new classroom. He grinned. First the mango, now a cow. I wonder what saves him next. His teacher chuckled. Maybe a chicken, but deep in the bush an old brown cow grazed peacefully, untouched by fame. It didn't know it was a hero. It had simply stood still at the right place at the right time. While the world tried to bring a good man down, Africa stood still and saved